Hello and welcome to Eat to Treat. We are a nonprofit that aims to end health disparities. I'm Dr. Amaris Williams and I do live cook-along cooking demonstrations for Eat to Treat. I have a PhD in nutrition and I'm an avid foodie and a cook. So I develop and present these recipes, diabetes friendly and hypertension friendly recipes, every first and third Saturday of the month. Um, at 3 p.m. Eastern, sorry. And I post the ingredients ahead of time on eat-to-treat.org so that you can gather the ingredients and join me in the kitchen for a delicious meal. So today we're making Berbere spiced not black bean, but black-eyed pea sliders with quick collards. And this is an alternative to the black-eyed peas and collard green dish you might eat at the beginning of the year for good luck that's cooked in bacon grease and has lots of salt in it. This is a healthier alternative, and so let's get started making it. As is customary, when I have a recipe that calls for wine, we open that first. This is, as I say, it's quality control to make sure that the wine we're using is up to snuff. So get your glass, get your wine, and pour yourself around 6 ounces, which is 1 serving of wine. Cheers. Today I'm using a Pinot Grigio. Any white wine that's not too sweet will do for this recipe. Both the collards and the black-eyed pea sliders call for wine, so get that ready. Now, first thing we're gonna do is cut an onion. My onion is already peeled. If yours is not, then start peeling it, and I will talk to you about the recipe. So this recipe came from Afro Vegan, which is a great cookbook for healthy recipes from the diaspora. This recipe is not vegan because I could not get it to work without adding eggs to it. So my sliders fell apart when I made this the first time, and I fixed it by adding eggs. So it's no longer vegan. If you want to make it vegan, you can try it without eggs and just add more oats or breadcrumbs to it to make it stick together better. But I didn't have much success with that. So your onion should be peeled by now. So let's cut it in half. We're going to cut it in half from root to stem. So there's the root, that's the stem. We're going to cut it in half like that. And the reason why we leave the root on both halves of the onion is because the root helps the layers of the onion not come apart completely while we're trying to cut it. And then it'll be sliding all over the place and it'll be a mess. Especially if your knife is not sharp. So, we want relatively small pieces of onion. So I'm going to slice my onion like this. Still leaving the root intact so that it sticks together. And then I'm going to cut it perpendicular to the cuts that I made the first way. I'm going to cut it this way, like that, to get diced onion. And as soon as that's ready, I'm going to throw it in the pan. So I'm going to turn my pan on to, let's say, 4 out of 10. And I'm going to put some olive oil in it. This can be regular olive oil because we're going to cook it for a while. If you put extra virgin olive oil in this, you're going to lose a lot of the extra virgin flavor. That's about 1.5 tablespoons of oil in my pan. So I'm going to put that much oil in there because we're going to put mushrooms in there eventually, and mushrooms suck up a lot of oil. So throw your onions in there and then cut your second half of your onion the same way you cut the first half of the onion. So slicing it so that it makes kind of like a fan when you spread out the layers, and then perpendicular to that, slice it again. Alright. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. I almost said don't feel free to put them in the chat. Don't hesitate to put them in the chat. I will answer whatever questions you may have, if I can. So, all the onion in the pan. The next thing we're going to do is cut up the mushrooms. And that is pretty much all the cutting for this recipe. Is cutting up the onions and the mushrooms. The rest of the cutting is going to be done by the food processor. Now, what I have here are Hermione mushrooms. These are the baby bella mushrooms. I forgot to buy portobello mushrooms, and this demo is at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, and at 2 p.m. I was like, oh my god, I don't have portobello mushrooms, and I had to run to the store, and of course the store didn't have any portobello mushrooms, so I've got these baby bellas. This recipe will work just fine. I bought an 8-ounce package of baby bellas. I probably only need about 6 ounces. So I'm just gonna rough chop them. Doesn't have to be pretty. Just slice them a little bit so that they're in smaller pieces and they cook faster. And then, like I said, the food processor is going to cut up everything else. And you can see that I've got my fingers curled under like this, kind of like a claw, and that's just so I don't cut them off. So I encourage you to curl your fingers while you're chopping the same way. Alright. It's weird because I went to the grocery store this morning to get the ingredients that I would need, and I remembered the wine, but I did not remember the mushrooms. Alright, so the mushrooms are ready to go. I'm just going to toss them in. And just stir them around. Ooh. Sorry, I'm making all kinds of noise here. And I think I'm going to turn this up to a 4.5 out of 10. Maybe I'll put it on 5. I'll put it on 5 out of 10. If your onions start to brown, you can turn your pan down. But we want to cook all the moisture out of the onions and the mushrooms. So get them going real good. And then maybe after they're cooking and sizzling and steaming, then we can turn it down. Alright, so while we're waiting on the mushrooms and onions to dehydrate, what we can do is put the stuff in the food processor bowl. So everything else goes in the food processor bowl for the Berbere sliders. So these are my black beans. I cook these in a no salt added broth in a pressure cooker, but the pressure cooker part is not necessary. You can definitely cook them on the stove in a regular pot. It'll just take longer. So 1.5 cups of beans in there. Definitely drain them because we're trying to have as little moisture in this as possible. Don't forget to stir your onions and your mushrooms on occasion. Okay, next ingredient that goes in, get my recipe here so I don't forget anything, is the tamari or the soy sauce. So you can use low sodium soy sauce or low sodium tamari. It's the same. It's not the same, but it's similar. So either will work. And I'm going to put the 1 tablespoon in there. Don't put any salt in this yet. What we're going to do is we're going to run the food processor with all the ingredients in there, and then taste it, and then season it if necessary. Alright, I'm stirring my onions and mushrooms. Go ahead and stir yours. Mine is getting up to temperature now. Alright, the other thing that goes in the food processor bowl is the rice. So I've cooked my rice. I've cooked more rice than I need. But before you put the rice in there, I've been neglecting my wine, so let's have a sip of wine. Alright, we need 3/4 cup of rice. So I'm just going to use my measuring cup and eyeball it. This is not rocket science. This does not have to be exact. So, and one good thing about using black-eyed peas, which are a legume, and rice, which is a grain, a whole grain, if you use brown rice. So the brown rice and the black-eyed peas together make a complete protein. So when you mix a legume and a grain, you get a complete protein. Now meat by itself is a complete protein, and that's why people associate meat with protein. But you can get complete proteins from foods, from plants. You just have to pair them together in strategic ways. And grains and legumes is one of those strategic ways. So stir your onions and mushrooms. They should be cooking down nicely. Okay, and now the next thing to go in the food processor is half a lemon juice. So I've got a seedless lemon here. The packaging says non-GMO. It just says naturally seedless. I'm not sure how they get the lemons to be seedless, but you don't have to worry about getting seeds in your dish when you have a seedless lemon. And so I'm just going to juice it. I'm using the fork to keep it from spurting everywhere, and then also to kind of rotate the fork in the flesh of the lemon to get more juice out of it. And this, you can use a reamer for that, which is those little pointy things that are round and have ridges on them, or you can just use a fork. So I'm using a fork today. My reamer is dirty. Alright. Now, the next thing is the molasses. We're going to put half a tablespoon of molasses in, if I can get this open. There we go. Half a tablespoon of molasses in there, and you can also use brown sugar for this. So if you have brown sugar is not raw sugar. It's not the same thing. Brown sugar is just plain old white cane sugar that they added molasses to. So you're going to get the same molasses flavor from brown sugar as you will from just adding molasses. And by the way, this is unsulfured molasses, so it'll say in small print somewhere on there, unsulfured, on the bottle. So now stir your onions and mushrooms. Mine are starting to brown a little bit. Okay, so now that my onions and mushrooms are starting to brown, I'm going to add the garlic paste to the pan. And it's about a tablespoon of garlic paste. I'm just going to eyeball it and add it. You can't really go wrong with the garlic paste. You can add as much as you like. I like a lot of garlic, so I'm a little heavy-handed with it. But garlic can burn. Why is it important to use unsulfured molasses? That is a good question. I don't know. The recipe that I based my recipe off of called for unsulfured molasses. It specified unsulfured molasses. I do not have any sulfured molasses, so I did not try it with sulfured molasses, so I don't know what would happen if you did. Alright. My screen was about to go dark. That's a problem. Okay. Now, next up is we're going to put the tomato paste in with the onions and mushrooms. And we need 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. Just roughly get that in there. And stir. So the garlic, when you put that in, stir it. Don't let it burn. And the tomato paste, also the same thing. Stir it until it's good and incorporated. Don't let it burn. Some of it will stick to the bottom of the pan, and that's what the wine is for. The wine is going to deglaze the pan. It's going to get all the brown flavor bits off the bottom of the pan and get them back in the solution so that you don't lose that flavor because it's stuck to the pan. Alright? So that's incorporated in there. Now I'm going to add my 1 tablespoon of Berbere powder, spice powder, and you can use a good quality chili powder and a good quality curry powder to get a similar experience. It's not going to be the same really, but it'll be close, because the recipe that I used to make the spice powder that I'm using calls for dried chilies. Most of it is dried chilies, and then there's spices like cardamom and other things that you would find in chili powder. And if you're curious, I'm going to turn this off now. If you're curious, this is the book that I use to make my spice powder. It's Ethiopia by, I'm going to butcher his name, so I'll just leave it alone. But it's Ethiopia Recipes and Traditions from the Horn of Africa. This book has a lot of spice powder recipes in it, and the Berbere is the most famous one out of Ethiopia. Alright, so now we are done cooking down the mushrooms and the onions, and we're just going to add that to the food processor bowl. Oh, it smells so good. me just double check to make sure we got everything in there. We got onion, we got mushroom, we got garlic paste, the bearberry, tomato paste. Oh, I didn't use the wine. I didn't deglaze the pan with the wine. So I'm going to pour some wine in this pan that's still hot. Turn it back on. Just about a quarter cup, and I'm going to let it simmer and reduce down and cook all the alcohol off. The alcohol is not for the food, it's to dissolve the flavor particles that are on the bottom of my pan. So I'm just going to do that now, and then I'm going to pour the dissolved flavor particles into the food processor bowl. But the reason that I'm reducing down the wine is because we just spent all that time cooking the liquid out of the mushrooms and the onions. There's no point adding that back in as white wine. I mean, it'll taste good, but it won't stick together, and what we're trying to do is have a patty that sticks together. Alright, so what else did we add in there? We added the black-eyed peas, we added the tamari, or the soy sauce, we added the lemon juice, we added the molasses, and we added the brown rice. Oh man, I just realized that I forgot to tell you to turn your oven on to 400 degrees. So if you are in your kitchen, turn your oven on to 400 degrees. Mine is already on, and it's actually starting to get hot in my house because the oven is on. But you want your oven on 400 degrees, so please turn your oven on. Alright. And don't worry, we still have plenty of time for it to preheat before it's time to put the slider patties in there. So we're actually going to be baking the slider patties because they didn't stick together very well when I tried to cook them in the pan. So I added the eggs and I baked them, and they did stick together. So this is different from what Bryant Terry and Afro Vegan recommended. He said cook them on the stove, but mine just fell apart. So alright, I'll turn the wine up a little bit so that it simmers down faster. Okay, I think we're about halfway reduced. The next thing we're going to do, then that you can start getting ready, is we're going to, of course, pulse all the food in the food processor bowl together. But we're also going to start cutting and de-stemming the collard greens. So if your collard greens need to be washed or something, you can use this downtime to wash your collard greens. Alright, so I've reduced my wine down, and I'm just going to pour it in. Alright. Alright, so put the top on your food processor bowl and process away. Alright, this is going to be loud, so I apologize ahead of time. Okay, so this is what I'm looking like here. I still got recognizable grains of rice, but all the mushrooms are processed down, the onions are processed down, the beans are processed down. I think that we're good. You can, of course, process it more than that if you would like. I'm going to dump this into a bowl, and then I'm going to taste it and adjust the seasonings, because the next step is to put the raw egg and the raw egg and the oats in, and you want it to taste good before you do that because you don't want to taste it with raw egg in it. I mean, it'll probably be alright because people eat over easy eggs all the time, but let's just taste it. Alright. So, get your spoon or your fork, taste it, and adjust the seasonings. I think mine is good. What I would add to this is a little bit more lemon juice. But I only have half a lemon left, so, and I need that for the greens. So I'm gonna leave it alone. Alright, so I'm gonna add 1 egg to my mixture. I'm making a well in the center of the bowl, and I'm going to crack the egg directly in there. And I'm just going to mix it in. Then, once I get the egg mixed in there, I'm going to see if it's too juicy or not. And this too juicy is like really subjective. Just put some in your hand and try to form it into a patty. If it sticks together, then it's probably not too juicy. If it forms a puddle, then it's too juicy. And then you can add oats to dry it out. Alright, so I've mixed in my egg. And I'm going to test a small amount. And I think I probably do need some oats. It might stick together in the oven, but I think I'm going to add a little bit of oats. Yeah. So I'm going to start with half a cup of oats. And one thing you can do if you really want a finer texture for this is to put your oats in the blender and blend them into a powder. But I'm just going to put my oats in there whole. These are rolled old-fashioned oats. I'm not using quick oats. I don't know if quick oats would what would happen if you did that. Probably quick oats would absorb the liquid faster than the old-fashioned oats, but I don't know. That would take some experimentation for me to find out. So hopefully your collard greens are ready to go. Mine are rinsed, and now your oven should be close to ready to go. And what we're going to do is form some patties. I've got a baking sheet here with a little bit of silicone pad on top of it. And that's what I'm going to put my sliders on. They come off nicely and it's easier to clean. And I'm doing about a quarter cup, maybe a quarter cup plus 1 tablespoon of mixture, forming it into a patty loosely, and then dumping it onto the baking sheet. Too much. And I'm just going to do 6, and I'm going to set the rest to the side. You can do as many as you have guests, and you can make these any size you want. You just adjust how long you bake them. So if you make them bigger and thicker, then bake them longer. If you make them thin and small, you don't have to bake them quite as long. So I'm going to bake mine about 25 minutes using a quarter cup at a time of this mixture. and I'm baking them at 400. So, excuse me. If you're just joining us, your oven should be at 400 right now. Okay. My hands. And then I'll put this in the oven and we'll make the collard greens. Collard greens are quick, so don't worry. They will be done before the sliders are. All right, I'll be right back. Now that the oven has baked my face, probably oily and shiny now. All right. Let's put this to the side and we will have some wine. Now, let's take the collard greens and cut the ribs out. So how the easiest way for me that I do this is I just take the leaf and fold it in half like that, so the rib is on the edge. And then you take your knife and slice along the rib and remove it. Okay, so I'll put this to the side and show you again. Fold the leaf in half. You may have to crack it a little bit to do that. Crack some of the veins. And then cut along the rib and remove it. And so do that for all your leaves. Careful not to cut your fingers. And if you hear banging outside, there's a garbage truck outside getting some garbage in the street. So, sorry about that. The collards, you can put any kind of relish or what's the Indian word for it? Not salsa. I'm blanking on the name now. Not relish. It's oh man, I can't believe I can't think of the word. The Indian sauce that's like a relish, but it's not called a relish. What is that called? Chutney. Yes. You can put a chutney on it. You can put a relish. You can put cheese. I did collards because of the New Year's theme of black-eyed peas and collard greens for good luck and prosperity in the new year. But I don't know. Black folks have been eating New Year's collard greens and black-eyed peas for a long time, and I don't know about the prosperity piece of that. Maybe some of us are prosperous, but not everybody. That's for sure. So, almost done. I got one more leaf. And then what we're going to do next is have all the leaves stacked together and then cut them in thin strips. It's called a chiffonade. All right, so I've got my leaves stacked in a nice little bundle, and you can roll it. The true chiffonade is you roll the leaves. You can also just cut it without rolling it. So just cut it in thin strips. Don't forget to hold your fingers such that I don't know. Is everyone still there? Sorry, my screen went to screensaver, so I oh, okay, I think people are still there. So I didn't grow these collards. Um, I have Swiss chard out in my yard. I don't have collards anymore. My collards, I ate them all and killed the plant because I ate them all. All right. Okay, good. Everyone can still see me, us. Um, yeah, my screen went black. I gotta fix the screensaver issue. Didn't anticipate that. All right, so now get your pan ready again. So we are going to put extra virgin olive oil in the pan this time because we're just gonna cook this quickly and we're still gonna have the flavor of the EVOO extra virgin olive oil. And I'm just gonna put this in the same pan that we cooked down the mushrooms and onions in because we're using the same flavors. We're using bearberry and it should be fine. So, and I'm a big fan of not making unnecessary dishes. So, wine, and let's get this done because we are close to time. So just put your greens, your chiffonade greens in the pan. And then season them with some garlic paste and some bearberry seasoning. Where'd my garlic paste go? Oh, there it is. I got it. Crisis averted. Just gonna put a little bit of garlic in there and the rest of my bearberry seasoning in there. Alright. And it just smells so good. Alright. And stir your greens. We're going to put the lemon juice in last. If you have a lemon with seeds, you can go ahead and juice it now. I'm turning my pan up to 6 out of 10. It was on 5 out of 10, but I'm going to do 6 out of 10 for this. But if you have a lemon with seeds, you can go ahead and juice it now, and then take the seeds out of the juice so that it's ready to go. And basically all we're doing is wilting these collards. We've taken the tough part out. We've taken the stem out, so it should be fine. So anticipate more texture than your general boiled for an hour and a half collard greens. These are not that. So cook them until they wilt, and then we're going to add the lemon juice to it. And the white wine. Don't let me forget the wine. Okay, yeah. Thank you for reminding me about the wine. I'm going to go ahead and put the wine in there now because my pan is a little dry. And I don't want the bearberry seasoning to burn. And then the wine will help steam the collard greens and cook them down. And then the lemon juice, if you cook lemon juice, you lose the flavor. So we're going to put that in at the very end. So basically, now all we're doing is reducing the wine because the collard greens are pretty much wilted at this point. So we're going to reduce the wine. And I will show you, while we're waiting on that, I will show you what the uh, sliders look like when they're finished. So I'm going to show you. Here are some sliders that I started about 2:30 when I got back from the grocery store. And if you want them round on the top and the bottom, then don't use the silicone pad because it doesn't round them. But you can bake them and then they hold together and they're patty-like. So, and then I have some bread that I will prepare. And in keeping with the Ethiopian theme, I made ayib, which is a cheese. You just basically heat some milk on the stove and then add lemon juice. You don't put salt in it or anything, and it's just basically a fresh cheese, and that's what I'm going to be putting on my sliders. But you can use whatever cheese you like. I've got a plate here. And if you want a recipe for this ayib, you can Google it, or you can look in that Ethiopia book that I talked about earlier and get your berry recipe out of that book, and then get your ayib recipe out of that book. And there's a lot of other good recipes in that book, so I definitely would recommend it. Alright, so the bread that I bought is this whole wheat multigrain loaf, and I've already been snacking on it, which is why it's cut. It is very good by itself, and even better with this, with the Berbere spiced slider. And so the slices, because it's not really the slices are kind of oval shaped, so I'm just going to cut them in half, like widthwise, and then put the sliders on the bread. I'll just small one, and I'll put a little bit of ayib. I'm going to use a fork. Okay. Alright, and last but not least, the quick collards. So I'm turning off the collards, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the slider. You can have the collards on the side if you want, but oh yeah, lemon juice, thank you. I don't know what I would do without you guys. I would just have under-seasoned food, and then I'd taste it and I'd be like, oh yeah, lemon juice. So let's finish this with some lemon juice, and I'm just gonna squirt it right into the pan. Okay, got most of it out. And probably tongs would be best for this, but I've got a fork and I'm gonna make it work. Alright, we got the collars, and we'll close it off like that. Alright, let's go to a different view so you can see it from the side. So this is my slider. I don't know if it's gonna focus, probably not. But we've got the ayib, we've got the slider, and we've got the whole grain bread. We've got brown rice, we've got lentils, we've got, which are the black-eyed peas, so we've got a complete protein. You don't need meat on this. We also have egg, so that's also complete protein. So there's plenty of protein in this slider. mostly plant-based protein, and you've got fiber, you've got nutrients. It's just, and you've got flavor, most importantly. So, this is gonna be spectacular. Let me just try it. I'm eating my hair. Okay. Mm. So you get the berry spice. It's very forward in the plate. You get the lemon. You don't get the wine so much, which is fine. I've got it in a glass. But um it's good. It's good. It's flavorful, it's packed full of nutrients, and it's delicious. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna do an outro so we can all eat. Today we made Berbere Sliders, plant protein sliders, and so you can hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of the next cooking demo. And it's gonna be just as delicious as this one. It's gonna be on the third Saturday of January, so 3 p.m. We'll be right here Eastern time, 12 Pacific. And I'll see you next time. All right, so bye.